Is that okay?
Can I taste it? I haven't had Foster's in a while.
I've never had Foster's before. It's pretty good.
I haven't had it really long
For
time.
me, it's just beer. Like I'm not a connoisseur of beers. Don't pour it out. He didn't like it.
No, it just went straight down my throat.
Wrong hole.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Why the fuck does Foster's taste like Captain Crunch? It tastes like Captain Crunch.
Let me try.
No, it tastes like fucking Captain
It
Crunch.
tastes like a
Let
kangaroo.
me try it.
It tastes like Captain Crunch.
No.
Oh my god.
Doesn't it taste like Captain Crunch?
It's just really slight hint of Captain Crunch.
I'll tell you, for a cheap beer, it tastes not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
For a cheap beer, it tastes like Captain Crunch.
Now let's talk about performances. I think the best thing about this trilogy is Bilbo and Martin Freeman's performance.
That's very interesting.
No, definitely.
I think Martin Freeman was like... I mean, not only was he not a fully fleshed out character, in my opinion, I think he was like very consistently the same throughout both movies. I saw him when I was watching him act.
No.
Not only did I not see him as distinctly Bilbo, I couldn't even get past him as being Martin Freeman. He acted exactly the same as he does in Sherlock, in everything he's in. He's always the kind of confused, plucky comic relief character, and that's exactly what he is in this movie.
I mean, like this. I feel like the spider scene where he murders the innocent baby spider is a perfect example of how that's not true. I mean, like, it shows that he's going through intense-ass emotions, and I feel like he really, really portrayed that very well.
And that's why you gotta see the first one again, dude, because he's way different in the very beginning of The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, than he is.
He's way more
even
skittish.
at the beginning. Yeah, he's so much more like, no, don't, like, you're eating my food, no.
Yeah.
Now he's, like, almost a leader. He's not a leader, but he takes charge very quickly.
But
he has grown as a character, and I just think his performance is amazing. That part where, like, the dragon gets up and he just sits down, it's just such a representation of, like, how I would feel if I was there. I'd be like, okay, I give up.
yeah,
I'm just gonna sit down, eat me. Fuck it. Like, that was such beautiful acting. Like, I seriously feel like he deserves a nomination. Because he's so good. No, I am not so wrong.
When it comes to character development, of the two films so far, Bilbo is just the leading role when it comes to character development. He is the person that from the very beginning, when his character is presented, you know, his interaction with Gandalf in front of his house, and that kind of, like you said, that kind of, that fear of adventure, and that kind of, like, lack of understanding, and that lack of knowledge, and...
He's reluctant.
Reluctant, yeah, exactly, and trying to avoid the situation, and then that progressing into him leading the situation, and literally discovering and figuring out the most important parts of the story, that being finding the keyhole to, you know, the secret door. Definitely, I think, if we're thinking about all the characters in the film, Bilbo just has the most well-explained and the best character development.
every like new lesson he learns just happens at like a right moment for him to learn that lesson. It's like it feels very natural.
The continuity is very natural. Exactly.
Yeah.
One great example, I think, is that the very first encounter he has is the trolls. He acts the exact same way as he acts with the dragon as he does with the trolls. You know what I mean? He's like sneaking by. He's really scared of these trolls. When you get to the spiders, he's like killing them, you know?
Right.
He's like so comfortable with this idea of killing them. You know, partly influenced by the ring, partly his character development. My point is that he is clearly a different character who's more comfortable with these scary things, and he only regresses back to that when he sees a fucking dragon, which is a feeling that we would associate with too. It's like if we saw something like that, yeah. It would be the exact same thing.
I'm not saying Martin Freeman doesn't play an important part of the movie, and then like that's what it sounds like when you guys are saying these things. It's like he isn't like he is like an integral part of like the group of dwarves, but I just feel like even in the Fellowship, there's like all these aspects of Bilbo. Like he seems kind of like playful, and like cause he just disappears in front of everyone. He seems, you know, he has emotions. He's like really sad about leaving Frodo, and just Bilbo in this movie, he doesn't have any emotions other than fear or
nervousness,
comedy, or being confused or nervousness. There's not enough. I feel like there's not enough development. Like maybe he changes throughout the movie, but there's no relating to him. And I know he's supposed to be going through this like transformation into this bad like, you know, thing controlled by the ring. But there should be moments where he's still like human or Hobbit.
These movies, he's not that guy yet in the trilogy. He still has a lot to learn. Same as like how Legolas in this one is not as his character in the trilogy.
Yeah, Legolas is much like colder as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just feel like he has no emotion to like empathize with. He has the same 4 emotions. He's never like missing home or like connecting with the other characters. He just like I mean he changes, yes, but he's very flat, I feel.
I just don't see that because it's there. To me, it was there in the movie.
And I'm judging this movie as like a unit because I haven't seen An Unexpected Journey in a while.
I just like the way that Bilbo's character develops. You know, it's not necessarily dialogue, but it's his relationship to everything that's going on and the way that it's shown in the second one versus what he says in the first one.
And thinking about Bilbo's character is how we see this transition from when Bilbo acquires the ring into him literally using the ring at his birthday party in the Fellowship. And that is the first time when Gandalf really sees it happen in front of his eyes. And then Bilbo actually at that moment giving up the ring and saying that I need help. I need to get rid of this and I need to get away from everything. And that's when he goes to Rivendell for rehab, you know? That's when it all happens. It's like, in terms of like so far, all the things that have happened to Bilbo within the Hobbit series and that transitioning into what we know as the Fellowship, I think so far Bilbo's character development has been supreme. I think it's been a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Okay. That whole scene where they fucking get to the mountain, right? And like the dwarves are like, "Oh, we can't fucking like open the mountain. We can't open the door. This is bullshit. Okay, let's go." And then Bilbo is like, "No, you fucking idiots." And he's like, "No, we didn't come this far for us not to open the door.
They gave up too easily.
I'm gonna stay here."
They gave up way too easily.
That was kind of fucking silly.
I know it was completely silly, and honestly, I thought that was stupid. I thought that didn't need to be in the film. But in retrospect, according to what you just said as far as Bilbo taking charge, the fact that Bilbo stayed there for an extra 2 minutes and was just like, "Oh, the fucking moon." Like, the fact that he stayed there and did that and he opened the door and it wasn't any of the dwarves who did that is a huge, important, key role as far as his character development and actually taking charge of the situation.
So, what was interesting to me was that Gandalf, this amount of screen time was less screen time than he's gotten in any of the Lord of the Rings movies yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which was interesting, and he also, like, I love his character, but it wasn't needed, and it wasn't missed, which is awesome. Like, the amount of screen time he gets, I think, is perfect. I love almost his entire storyline.
But the fact that Gandalf's story in this movie ends within a cage is amazing. It's captivating. It's sad. It's powerful. The whole idea that the end of the movie is Gandalf in a cage is really, really strong. He has an ultimate showdown where he's fighting Sauron. There's nothing he can do.
Yeah, and the whole time that he's going to that moment, he actually doesn't really know what he's going up against.
Yeah.
You know, like, he doesn't see it until he's in a cage, and he's like, holy shit, this is bigger than anything I could have ever expected, you know?
I think that's the most powerful thing about his storyline in this movie is that it really sucks to see him in such danger, like, because you love his character so much.
You love
And
Gandalf.
you really get a sense that, like, he's not getting a break when he goes to Dol Guldur, you know, like, he's, like, getting beat down time after time after time. You know, he has to fight Azog. Everything is so evil. Everything there. You just get that sense everyone's evil and out there to fucking kill him.
And play with him and toy with him.
Yeah, exactly. The Balrog scene was so epic in Moria, and I loved it. And this almost tops it. I just love that his fucking staff breaks and burns away. It just is amazing.
He's holding his staff, trying to fight something back, but ultimately what it is just him trying to hold back and try to resist to that ultimate power, and there's nothing he can do to like engage and actually fight back. It's him just holding his ground. Because it cuts back to him multiple times, and all he's doing is holding the staff until it breaks. And like he's not trying to attack him, you know, it's just him on the defense the whole time.
Dude, he's so reliable.
Yeah.
You can always count on Gandalf being like awesome.
One quick note is that I think that Radagast is so much more likable in this movie. Like, he's playing a good role. I mean, I like that he's not over the top crazy. He's really, like...
A very small part, too.
I know, but I really liked him in this. Like, I thought he was actually likable in this and not annoying.
I thought he was, a lot of the times he was there just for exposition. Like, you know, he'd be like, why is this? Why are we doing this? And then Gandalf would be like, well, I'll tell you. And, like, just that way the audience could understand what was going on. I felt like that was the main reason why he was here. Why did he need him?
I'll tell you why. Because, I think it's because when he goes into Dol Guldur, he says to Radagast, send for Galadriel and the rest of the White Council. Mm-hmm. So his mission is then going to get the rest of the White Council because he knows that if he gets fucked, then they'll come and save him. So Radagast does have a use. You know, after all, he did discover the whole entire necromancer plot in the first movie, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so Bard.
How do you feel about Bard being introduced into the story the way that he was, appearing at the river scene and taking the dwarves into Laketown? Do you think that that was an appropriate introduction to Bard's character?
Yes, I think that was a totally natural way to introduce him, especially since it seemed like he was there for a reason. He wasn't just standing there. He's someone who transports things for the elves to Laketown. The only thing that was weird to me is that he shoots an arrow like he's a fucking elf. And he's a human. He's going to make mistakes. He's not going to shoot something right into a stick. That's retarded.
But he is an archer.
He is an archer. He is an archer, and I understand they're trying to establish the fact that he's a very accurate archer because he is the one who, spoilers, is going to kill Smaug.
Of course, yes.
So that's totally, a nitpick. I'm just saying that I find it kind of peculiar as far as realism goes, because the whole idea is that humans, they're much more susceptible to mistakes and physically clumsy as well as mentally. I do think that it was a great introduction, and I really liked his character.
So far, I think his character has done a really good job in the story. It's subtle in this film, but I think we're now all expecting in the final film for him to be like a major role.
Yes.
I'm really excited to see his character development in the third one because he's going to be basically forced into this position where he has to take initiative, do something that he was essentially kind of trying to hide. He had the black arrow hidden in his house. He was trying to put that away.
And that's something I definitely wanted to reflect on. I think Bard's character, from when he was introduced all the way to the point where this black arrow was a part of his kitchen, I think that entire time period, I hadn't really viewed his character anything but something as like a banal incorporation into the film. I didn't feel like his character was a major part. Mm-hmm. But then I think once the black arrow was apparent, especially after the introduction of how Smaug can only be killed by the black arrow, and that is the only weakness of this dragon, him having that in the kitchen of his own home and that being of his possession really, really interpreted the power which Bard had as a character in the film. And I thought that was a really crucial scene, him pulling it from his own kitchen and that proving that, he has the power to be able to kill the one thing that people feel hopeless against.
I mean, also the fact that it is in his bloodline. It's a bad thought, but it's a great storyline that his kin, his ancestry, supposedly failed, to injure or maim or, hurt the dragon in any way. And because of that, he obviously has this pressure on him, which makes, when he does kill the dragon, even more potent and powerful. And I think that is a good example of something that's a step up from the book. Because he's so undeveloped in the book. He's like nothing in the book. He's just the guy that kills the dragon. The fact that he comes from an ancestry that is considered a failure and almost a responsibility for, the destruction of everything means that there's so much more pressure on his character.
I think Bard plays a really great role as far as the role of man. In Lord of the Rings, I feel like it's underdeveloped, the idealism of what man means in this whole universe of Middle-earth. I think it's really cool, the key element in which Bilbo is talking to Smaug, and they have the whole conversation. That whole scene is building up to the power that Smaug is, and it creates an environment in which Smaug is ultimate. But then you see that small little, scar on his chest, and you realize they have the power to destroy him. The fact that Bard only has that one arrow, they talk about it in this film, the second film, they talk about it, and they see his ancestor shooting multiple arrows and failing, but he hits it that one time. The fact that Bard has one, it's like he only has one shot. But it's like that fucking Eminem song for 8 Mile. It's like fucking one shot. It's one It's
oh my
one
god.
shot, dude. It's one shot. It's that one chance.
I'm so happy you made that connection.
It's one shot.
No matter how irrelevant, it's so
it's
good.
One shot. It's one shot. It's
Wait.
You know,
How many shots?
One.
I just wanted to say that I really felt that Bard's very personal backstory about his family and how his wife died was very naturally introduced into the storyline. It wasn't forced. It really just felt like it was a natural thing.
Subtleties.
Yeah, very, very subtle, and I really, really loved that. And his dynamic with his family. It also shows about a lot of he doesn't want to have to take on this legacy because he has a family. He's already lost a wife. He doesn't want to do this and then screw it up and lose the whole town, that really adds a lot to his character.
And you see how man is corrupted with the Master of Laketown. You see how Master of Laketown is completely corrupted and he's a sick, disgusting, dirty man. But in comparison, you have Bard, who's in many senses the same way, but he's trying to make the best of what he can do. And he has that in his blood to make it something better. Who was the actor for the Master of
Stephen Fry.
He plays the talk show host in V for Vendetta, reflecting on the Master of Laketown and Stephen Fry's character being that person. Do you think that his character and the importance of his character being the master of a town, being almost like the mayor of the president, do you think it should have been more well represented or introduced in the story or more of an important role?
I kind of like that there wasn't that much of him because it felt more that he was very different from the rest of Laketown. He was a very different person, you know, like he had wealth, you know, he had different opportunities and whatnot. It excluded him, you know, from the rest of what was going on and isolated him perfectly. Yeah.
It's totally a parallel on real politics, you know, in a very simplified fashion.
You know, I don't think he needed any more development. He was like a very stereotyped character in the sense that like the town had been something important once and then it fell and like Bard's family used to be kings and then he's just like some bargeman now and he's just like representative of like he's like a skeezy mayor in like a kind of skeezy town that's like, you know, has seen better days and that's like all you need to know really.
Bard doesn't want the Dwarves to have anything to do with the Master of Laketown, and he tries to avoid it at all costs. And when it finally gets down to it, they bribe the Master of Laketown, and he totally buys it. And I think it's so funny that they had that scene, you know, where they just say, like, oh, we're going to the mountain. Do you want some money? And he's like, fuck yeah! Like, what do you guys need?
Yeah.
Because he hears, like, oh, you guys have access to the gold? I would love some gold. The Master of Laketown isn't about, like, some sacred higher power, you know? He just wants money. I think that's the most basic way that's conveyed in the film, you know, the fact that he doesn't want power, he just wants money because he sees money as power.
Comments on Thranduil, the king of the Mirkwood Kingdom.
I really like Thranduil's performance. I'm guaranteed that people don't like his character because he seems sinister and evil and has a whole idea of racism that's evoked in this. Lee Pace does a great job. I really like the performance of Lee Pace in comparison to the performance in Lord of the Rings of Hugo Weaving.
They're very different, but they're both elf kings, you know? And that is cool, because they didn't try to do a copy and paste kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and the Wood Elves always have this, like, isolationist policy compared to, like, the Rivendell Elves.
There's just so many different characters with the Dwarves, it's hard to really get really good character development with all of those characters going on. You know, even though it's a long movie, it's still not long enough to really, really get in depth of each and individual personality. I wish there was a little bit more, but I don't think it fell short.
Smaug.
Benedict Cumberbatch made an amazing performance in The Desolation of Smaug, being Smaug. And I'm so glad that he did.
It is my favorite part of the film by far. I mean,
Absolutely, yeah.
It's the most brilliant part of the film, and I mean, it works so well. And I hope there's more of it in the extended edition. I hope they take even more time with just that part, because it's just amazing to watch, and the acting is spectacular. The voice acting and motion capture by Benedict Cumberbatch is also amazing. And then, you know, also, you have to give credit to the CGI artists for making such a beautiful, beautiful creation that looks amazing. Like, when you take it back on those wide shots of the dragon and him talking, oh my god, it's just a sight to behold. I mean, it's really like a cinematic experience. It's something you go to the movies for.
You really feel like there's a giant beast in front of you
Yeah.
watching it.
Between Bilbo and Gollum, I think it's really good that the movie kind of, the last two-thirds were Bilbo being completely on his own, just talking to Gollum, and then in this movie, he's completely alone talking to Smaug. I think the way that works in continuity is really key. It's really key. And what you said before, as far as him having that conversation with Gollum being the best part of the movie, and him having that conversation with Smaug being the best, like, scene that creates those kind of feelings, I think that's really key. And I think that really made a big difference in Bilbo's progression as a character, and also carried the movie a lot more than any other scenes.
I think we can all agree that the scene that really made us sit at the tip of our chair, really just being completely captivated and immersed in the film, was when Bilbo first steps on that part of the hill and, you know, all the coins start coming down into the eye of Smaug.
And it zooms out and you see where his tail is and his head begins, like, or his head begins and his tail ends. I got chills down my back.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
It sucks because if the movie kept that consistency, if all the quality of the film was on par with that, which I understand is that's a really tall order. But if it kept that quality, it would be better than the Lord of the Rings films. Of all 6 movies I know right now, I don't even have to see the third. Those two characters interacting is one of my favorite moments in all 6 films.
And it's so captivating and powerful in that establishing shot where you see his eye and his tail. It's like, this is something much larger than Bilbo. This is something much more threatening. But at the same time, the way that Bilbo interacts and speaks to Smaug, and the way that he speaks to Gollum, in contrast, you see that like something so small, in something so subtle as words, can like still interact and make do with the threat at hand. And that's why those moments are so powerful, because it's something so easy and simple to see and to feel, but it creates an emotion that's much bigger and more powerful.
I really like how when Smaug first sees Bilbo, he doesn't just like decide like, oh, I'm gonna fucking kill him. He's like, he's playing with him. You know, he's like, there's no way this could possibly threaten me. I might as well have some fun with this. He can't even fathom the idea that he could be beaten. He's so arrogant about himself, and that's, you know, and how he's like, you know, he gets all pissed and like he goes to Laketown and he's gonna go take it out on them at the end. I don't know. It was really cool, and you know, knowing that he's gonna die, I'm really excited to see how Smaug takes that. How, like, once he is confronted with the fact that he's gonna die, what he's gonna do.
One of the best parts about the Desolation of Smaug, about the entire film, is how there's this almost like this waiting period. There's this expectation which we all have as the viewers of the film, watching the very beginning of An Unexpected Journey and the opening scene being about Smaug coming in to the Dwarven city and completely destroying everything and, you know, taking over. And one of the things that I just thought was so great, and one of the things that I was really, really hoping was going to be really well executed, was returning back to Smaug's appearance in the film. And that was something I was really worried about, is I was worried that once we get back to Smaug from the very beginning of Unexpected Journey, I was hoping that there would be that excitement again from the very beginning of The Hobbit, when we've been waiting years and years and years for this film to come out. I feel like it was just that same excitement that I got of like this dragon almost being what captivated me to really want to see this film in the end, is awaiting for his awakening and really seeing how that would turn out. Yeah. And honestly, I think my expectations were completely filled.
Yeah,
I think that
totally paid off.
It definitely took the cake completely.
Yeah.
So as you guys said, I mean, you know, Smaug was like really impressive and powerful, and you know, Bilbo was like so fucked for that whole scene. Even when he like had his ring on, like he was still kicking up coins, and he was totally like in the dragon's environment. Like even the ring wouldn't help him, you know. But then like this whole ridiculous pinball action scene takes place afterwards that kind of like reduces Smaug's, you know, sense of power.
Yeah, and I think we all totally agree.
I mean, it's true. I actually didn't see it at all like that until you brought that up. But like, it did still kind of feel like it was just way too easy to trick Smaug to get there. The ending, like the end result, was beautiful. But like,
I mean, I don't want to keep mentioning the fact that this is like, you know, The Hobbit is designed more for kids than The Lord of the Rings was. But I feel like part of that, like, you know, less mature movie style is that there's like this one dimensionality to like all the characters, at least to some extent. You know, Bilbo is like kind of like the comic relief until he's like uplifting and brings the band together. And like that's exactly how Smaug is too. Like he was really complex at first, and then like as soon as like the action scene, filler scene started, he became this like one-dimensional, like just
dumbfounded,
overwhelmingly arrogant, dumb dragon who was like easily fooled. And it was like that one-dimensionality that like seems to be plaguing this movie, and I think is like part of this new style that he like rolled back for this movie, and like is less present, but it's still there to some extent, you know.
Yeah, I just really got the sense in that first scene that Bilbo was totally under the dragon's control. But then when you have this really exaggerated thrill ride, like amusement park ride with the dwarves and the dragon, it totally undermines the intensity and the intelligence of that dragon. And by doing so, it also takes away from your ability to take the dragon seriously as a character. It actually weakened the end of the movie, and I think it weakened Smaug as a character. I really do. I think it turned him into some stupid beast, which is really unfortunate because I loved him in the beginning, and I still want to say that I love him as a character, but that was a terrible idea, I think, for Peter Jackson, Philippa Boyens, and Fran Walsh to write that in there. I mean, there was a way that it could have been done much better. They could have replaced that whole thing with Laketown, in my opinion, and the climax could have been Smaug attacking Laketown, and it would have been a huge improvement. It wouldn't have made him seem like a dumb beast, and it would have been a great finale to the film. Instead, we get this stupid Thorin, like, floating down some fucking gold in a wheelbarrow or some shit.